Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here again to unpack some powerful ideas, break them down, and hopefully give you something actionable, something that really makes a difference. Today, we are diving deep into the work of James Allen. Now, he's someone whose philosophy sometimes gets maybe brushed off as just simple self-help.
Right, like positive thinking elite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you actually dig into his principles,
Yeah.
and if they're applied consistently, they are genuinely revolutionary isn't too strong a word, I think.
No, I agree. Allen really acts as an architect of the inner world. His books, they often look deceptively thin, right? Small volume.
Very approachable looking.
Yeah, but inside they contain these universal laws.
Right.
Laws that he believed govern not just our character, our inner self, but our actual physical experiences of life.
And so our focus today, our dive, is specifically about pulling out the core of his philosophy as it relates to abundance, the power of thought, and that path towards what he calls inner mastery. And our mission here is really to wrestle with Allen's central, kind of enduring questions, one we all see. How is it possible that two people can start out in seemingly very similar circumstances, same advantages, same disadvantages, roughly,
Right.
and yet end up living lives that are just completely, utterly different, worlds apart sometimes?
And we observe that constantly. And the usual explanations are, well, it was luck.
Or bad luck.
Or bad luck, exactly. Or maybe some unfair twist of fate. Or maybe you point to, systemic issues, barriers.
All valid points in many cases.
Sure. But Allen insists that even with those, we are missing the most potent, the most subtle force that's actually at work underneath it all.
This invisible force.
Yeah, this invisible force. And he argues it's the very texture of our consistent thoughts, our consciousness, what he literally called our thought life.
Our thought life.
The sources we're drawing from today, they really encapsulate his philosophy on abundance, and they're going to act as our guides, pointing us towards his core truth.
And that core truth, it's summed up in a quote that, honestly, it should kind of haunt you in a good way until you really absorb its implications.
It really should. It's the linchpin.
What is it?
A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thoughts.
Okay, let's pause on that word.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes.
Because that's where it shifts from just, a nice idea or a metaphor into something else entirely.
He's not saying it's like you are what you think. He's saying it's physics. It's a direct equivalence.
So if we actually accept that premise, even just hypothetically for a moment,
Yeah.
then the entire external world, our bank balance, the state of our relationships, our level of peace or anxiety, all of that is just the effect. The shadow, maybe?
Exactly. The shadow cast by the internal cause. And the cause is that continuous rolling stream of thought that we allow to dominate our minds.
Okay, so how do we visualize this? Because it sounds quite abstract. He gives us an analogy, right?
He does, the famous one. The mind as a garden.
Right. And thoughts are the seeds.
And this is where I think the real power of his philosophy starts to click, because the metaphor clarifies the absolute unyielding, almost mechanical nature of this process he's describing.
Mechanical how?
It speaks to what he called the divine impartiality of life. Think about soil in a real garden.
Okay.
Does the soil ever argue with you? Does it judge the seed you put in? Does it say, oh, that's a weed seed, I refuse to grow it?
No, it just grows whatever you plant.
Precisely. The soil, which for Allen represents your environment, your circumstances, your life conditions, it doesn't care about the quality or the moral standing of the seed, the thought you plant. It simply brings forth inevitably whatever you sow.
So whether those are seeds you've carefully chosen, visions of purpose, thoughts of capability, gratitude,
Which yield the fruits of abundance, the roses in the garden.
or whether they're the other kind, the neglected thoughts, the bitter seeds of doubt, self-pity, fear.
Which yield choking weeds, poverty, misery, failure. The soil grows both with equal readiness.
So under this model, abundance isn't some kind of reward for being a good person in a moral sense.
Not directly.
And it's definitely not an accident, not just luck.
No. It's the natural, inevitable fruit. The harvest from a mind that has been deliberately, methodically cultivated. A mind that's brought into harmony with principles like clarity, discipline, vision. It's pure process, planting and harvesting. And the harvest, Allen insists, is non-negotiable based on the seeds planted.
And that is the really tough part for most people to swallow, isn't it?
Absolutely. Because we all want the harvest of peace, prosperity, good relationships.
Of course.
But we resist the idea, fiercely sometimes, that we have fundamental control over the quality of the mental seeds we are planting day in, day out. We prefer to think it's forces outside of us dictating the harvest.
That denial is a perfect lead-in to our first big section then. Let's dig into this. The law of mental cause and effect. You said Alan sees it almost like physics.
Yeah, essentially, he's applying Newtonian logic cause and effect to the inner life, to the mental realm. He sees the universe operating under this universal, completely unbreakable law. For every single effect you observe, there must be a proportionate preceding cause.
Okay, that sounds logical enough for the physical world.
Right, we accept it there without question. You push something, it moves, that's the effect of your push, the cause.
You plant corn, you don't expect grapes.
Exactly. You don't plant an apple seed and then, sit back and use positive thinking, hoping it'll somehow yield diamonds. That's absurd to us. Yet, Alan points out, when it comes to our mental and emotional lives, we engage in precisely that kind of absurdity all the time.
How so?
We plant mental seeds of anxiety, maybe envy, thoughts of limitation. I can't do that. Maybe just mental inertia, laziness. And then we stand back, puzzled and frustrated, somehow expecting a harvest of peace, opportunity, wealth, and fulfillment. It's a fundamental mismatch between the seed sown and the harvest expected.
That disconnect, that mental illogicality, is what he really spent his life trying to dissect, wasn't it?
Absolutely. He states it very clearly. Every single outer effect, whether you are currently experiencing poverty or prosperity, whether your inner life is marked by turmoil or deep peace, every single one is a direct, almost geometrically precise reflection of an inner cause.
And that cause is?
The dominating, deeply ingrained patterns of thought within your consciousness. Not just fleeting thoughts, but the ones you return to, the ones that form your mental habits.
Okay, so if you really buy into that, if you internalize that law,
Yes.
it forces a massive shift in perspective, doesn't it? You have to stop pointing fingers outwards.
Completely. You can no longer credibly blame fate or the economy or your boss or external factors for your fundamental struggles. You start to realize that life is acting like an utterly impartial mirror.
Always reflecting your inner state.
Always. Therefore, if you desire abundance, if you desire peace, the flow has to start from within. It has to start with focused thought, with gratitude, with purpose, and then radiate outward.
Trying to grab abundance externally while your inner world is full of scarcity thoughts.
It's like trying to fill a bucket that has a massive hole in the bottom. You can pour and pour, but it won't hold. The inner state undermines the outer effort.
Okay, let me push back here a little bit, because this is where it gets challenging, I think, for a lot of us listening. If this law is so deterministic, so unbreakable, how do we square that with things that feel truly external and overwhelming? Like, imagine someone who has genuinely cultivated years of really conscientious, service-oriented thought. They built a business ethically, they saved diligently.
Okay.
And then, bang, a global market crash happens, completely outside their control, and their life savings are wiped out, or a natural disaster destroys their home and business. Is Alan really suggesting that even those huge macro events are somehow caused by that individual's thought patterns? That feels uncomfortable, almost like blaming the victim.
That is the absolute crucible, the hardest test of Alan's philosophy. And it's a fair challenge. He would likely argue something like this. While the specific timing of that external event might seem random, the conditions that made that person vulnerable to that specific devastation were, on some level, internally created or allowed.
How? Give me an example.
Okay, maybe the person who lost their savings, despite their good intentions, was subconsciously driven by a deep, unexamined fear of scarcity. And maybe that fear subtly caused them to take unwise risks in their investments, or perhaps ignore an inner prompting towards more caution.
Okay, so the fear was the weak point.
Or perhaps they hadn't cultivated the inner wealth, the mental resilience, the emotional stability, the wealth of soul, as Alan might call it, that's necessary to rebound quickly and creatively from sudden loss. The external event hits, but the response to it, the level of preparedness, the ability to see opportunity even in crisis, that, Alan would argue, is never accidental. It's a reflection of prior inner work.
So the universe, in his view, isn't like actively judging you and zapping you in real time.
No, not like a cosmic scorekeeper.
It's more like a flawless reflection mechanism that operates over time. What you consistently hold in your mind, your dominant thoughts, attitudes, emotional frequencies, that's precisely what the universe eventually delivers back to you as your experienced reality. It's a feedback loop.
Exactly. A perfect, impartial feedback loop. And this leads directly to his core psychological distinction, which isn't about how much money you have right now. It's about the difference between being poor in thought and being wealthy in thought.
Okay, unpack that. What does poor in thought look like?
It's defined by the internal dialogue. It's someone operating from a place of chronic anxiety, maybe resentment, a feeling of contraction. Their mental soundtrack is built on deficit.
Like what?
Things like, I never have enough money, good things don't last for me, I can't afford that. People like me just don't get those kinds of breaks. These aren't just passing negative thoughts. Alan says they become dominant emotional chains.
Chains that bind you.
Yes. Through this law of cause and effect, they bind the person to circumstances that perpetuate that feeling of poverty, regardless of how hard they might be working physically.
Yeah.
The inner state keeps recreating the outer lack.
Okay, so what about the wealthy in thought? How are they different?
They start the process internally, often long before there's any tangible external evidence to support it. They don't just vaguely hope for possibilities.
They imagine them.
They imagine them vividly. They hold them clearly in mind. Crucially, they cultivate a feeling of being deserving of good things, and maybe most importantly, they learn to trust the unseen process of growth even when it's slow or delayed.
So wealth, in this deeper sense, is fundamentally an attitude of expansion.
Yes. It's the inner conviction that life itself is based on an abundant supply, not scarcity, and that this supply is ready, waiting to be drawn into physical form by focused, consistent mental energy provided, and this is key, that energy is channeled correctly through purpose and action.
And you mentioned consistency. The emphasis is on sustaining that inner conversation.
Absolutely critical. It's the constancy that matters. Alan is crystal clear on this. As he thinks, so he is. As he continues to think, so he remains.
So it's not like doing a 5-minute positive affirmation in the morning and then spending the rest of the day worrying.
Exactly. That's like planting a flower seed and then immediately pouring weed killer on it. It cancels itself out. This is about the deep, sustained inner narration, the continuous mental atmosphere you live in that actively, continuously defines your unfolding reality.
That demands a level of inner vigilance, doesn't it? That most people, honestly, just aren't willing to commit to.
It really does. It's easier to react to circumstances than to consciously create them from within. People might try Alan's ideas for a week, maybe 2.
Yeah, feel good for a bit.
Right. But the moment an external contradiction appears, an unexpected bill, a setback at work, they often snap right back to the old, comfortable, familiar mental patterns of scarcity or worry.
And the result?
A cancellation of the creative energy they were trying to build. You have to commit. You have to decide to change the inner script you run on loop even, and especially when the external evidence seems to be screaming the opposite message.
You have to hold the vision.
Yes. Consistently choose the vision of opportunity. Trust that your mind, aligned with universal law, can unfold the solution and maintain the mental architecture, the thoughts, the feelings that align with that vision. Life, Alan insists, because of its mechanical nature, must eventually unfold to meet that persistent mental decree.
Okay, so this internal state then directly manifests how? Through what he calls the mirror principle.
Exactly. The mirror principle is the idea that our external environment, the actual conditions we live in, the people who show up in our lives, the quality of our relationships, the opportunities or lack thereof that we encounter, is rigorously, precisely a mirror reflecting our inner frequency.
Reflecting our dominant thought patterns, our deepest beliefs about ourselves and the world.
Yes. And the implication here, well, it forces immediate accountability, which can be painful, let's be honest, but it's necessary for change. Meaning, if you look around at your life right now and you find yourself surrounded by chronic conflict or pervasive scarcity or just stubborn stagnation where nothing seems to move forward, Alan says the absolute worst thing you can do is curse the mirror, blame the circumstances, try to smash the reflection through sheer willpower or complaint.
Because that's futile.
Utterly futile. It's like getting angry at your reflection in the mirror for frowning. The solution isn't to attack the mirror, it's to change the expression on your face.
Change the image within.
Precisely. If you genuinely, fundamentally change the quality of your dominant thoughts, if you elevate your sense of gratitude, your discipline, your inner clarity, their belief in possibility, then your circumstances, your environment must change in response. The reflection has to match the source.
The environment is the shadow cast by the self. It can't be otherwise, according to this law.
Cannot be otherwise. And this realization leads directly to the absolute cornerstone of Alan's entire philosophy, self-reliance.
Meaning once you truly grasp this mirror principle?
The immediate, liberating, and maybe slightly terrifying realization is you are the master gardener. You are the captain of your soul, the director of your destiny. You hold the key. You always have.
So all that energy spent looking outward for rescue, waiting for the government to fix things, or the economy to turn around, or for some external savior to arrive.
Alan would see that as a profound waste of your creative energy, a misunderstanding of where true power lies. The real foundational work is always, always internal.
Cleaning up your own mental garden first? Refining and strengthening the self?
That's the only path, in his view, to generating sustainable, meaningful, external change. Everything else is just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic if the inner state remains unchanged.
Okay, so we've established this power of thought, this mental cause and effect. But Alan doesn't stop there, does he? He argues that thought alone, even positive thought, isn't enough. It needs a foundation.
Exactly. Shifting into our second major section, he makes this incredibly powerful argument that mental attitude, while paramount, has to be underpinned by a solid structure. And that structure is character.
Character, so things like integrity, discipline, honesty.
Yes, he explores in depth why wealth or success that's built on shaky ground gains, rooted in things like laziness, maybe selfishness, overt dishonesty, why that kind of success cannot and inevitably will not endure. It lacks the necessary foundation.
So character isn't just a nice-to-have moral quality. For Alan, it's structural.
It's absolutely structural. It's the essential bedrock for permanent abundance. He sees character as this slow, steady accumulation of right thought that gradually crystallizes into right action. Habitual right action builds strong character.
And anything built without that.
Anything created out of harmony with what he sees as universal truth, with the law of balance and integrity, it must ultimately decay. It might look successful for a while. You might see temporary financial gains built on deceit or cutting corners.
We see that happen.
We do. But Alan argues it violates the deeper mechanical law of the universe. It creates an internal imbalance that over time mathematically guarantees some form of collapse or ruin. The foundation is rotten.
He has that really powerful, maybe even harsh statement related to this, doesn't he? About circumstances.
Oh, yes. Circumstances do not make the man, they reveal him to himself.
Okay, let's unpack that because it fundamentally reframes how we view struggle or hardship.
It completely redefines it. According to Alan, you are never merely a passive victim of what happens to you. Those external events, the business partner who betrays you, the market downturn that hits your industry, the unexpected illness, they are simply revealing an inner condition that already existed within you. They're like a diagnostic tool.
Revealing what? Weaknesses.
Maybe weaknesses, yes. Or perhaps areas where you're out of harmony with yourself or with principle. Maybe where your inner defenses are not as strong as you thought. Or perhaps, importantly, where your underlying motives might be impure or fear-based.
So the circumstances are just the printout, the story.
Exactly. They are the printed story, but you are the author. And the crucial part is, by changing the author's persistent mind, by refining the inner state, the story itself must change over time.
Okay, but this brings up a practical challenge. Thinking about integrity and motive. I get the intellectual argument for purifying your motives. But let's be real. Doesn't almost every ambitious person, especially when they're just starting out trying to build something, maybe escape poverty, don't they start with highly mixed motives?
Absolutely.
You know, a desire for status, wanting financial security, maybe needing to prove something to themselves or others. That often fuels the massive effort required.
Yeah.
How practical is it to demand like pure service and immaculate motive right from day one?
Yeah, that's a really critical and fair question. I think Alan would likely say the motive check isn't about achieving instant sainthood. It's not about being perfectly selfless from the get-go. It's more about setting the direction of your energy, consciously choosing the primary driver. If your main motive for seeking wealth is purely reactive-like, it's driven by a deep fear of scarcity, or a desperate need to prove your worth to someone who doubted you, or just raw competitive status seeking. That fear-based energy, Alan argues, is inherently self-limiting and unstable. Even if you achieve the financial goal, it often leads to a sense of emptiness or constant anxiety because the root is unhealthy.
So the goal isn't immediate purity, but maybe persistent self-purification, adjusting the motive over time.
Exactly. It's about the process. Building anything significant requires tremendous energy. If you consciously work to root that energy more and more in expressing your unique gifts, in creating genuine value, in contributing joy or solutions to others' problems, in other words, if the motive becomes increasingly oriented towards service,
Then what?
then that energy becomes abundance-based. It aligns with what Allen sees as universal law. That's the kind of wealth that sustains itself, that can weather storms, and, crucially, that actually nourishes the soul, not just the bank account. So, purifying motive is an ongoing refinement process that improves the quality and endurance of the abundance you attract.
And this inner purification, this refined thought and motive,
Mm-hmm.
it must then translate into tangible action, right? He's very clear on this.
Oh, absolutely. Allen dedicates significant attention to addressing that common disconnect. The countless people who dream vividly of wealth or success, but inwardly despise the actual effort, the labor, the disciplined work that's required to create real value.
The armchair millionaires.
Pretty much. He is completely uncompromising on this point. Work, conscious effort, is the indispensable channel. It's the conduit through which your invisible thought must pass to become visible, tangible reality, tangible wealth.
Right, thought has to crystallize into right action. You can't just sit and visualize.
Nope. If you think brilliantly about abundance, if you have the perfect vision, but you refuse to work diligently, persistently, and with disciplined order, Allen says you remain a barren dreamer. Your garden stays full of potential, but yields no harvest.
He calls them the two wings of prosperity, doesn't he?
Yes. Thinking well and working well. They are essentially one and the same force expressed differently. Trying to fly towards prosperity with only one wing, either just thinking or just working blindly without right thought, is ultimately pointless. The effort is wasted or misdirected.
And he also fundamentally redefines the purpose of abundance. It's not about just accumulating stuff.
No, definitely not hoarding resources out of fear. True abundance, the kind that brings deep, lasting satisfaction to the soul, comes from the satisfaction of being useful, of creating lasting value for others.
So when your work, your labor, becomes a genuine expression of your integrity, your purpose, your cultivated skills,
then success isn't something you have to chase anymore. It's attracted to you through sheer resonance. The quality of your contribution, aligned with right thought, acts like a powerful magnet. You draw opportunities and rewards to you naturally.
but that contribution can't just be random effort. It needs structure, which brings us to the power of purpose.
Yes. Allen is extremely critical of a mind that's allowed to just drift aimlessly. A mind without a specific, central, clearly defined purpose.
Mhm.
He sees it as essentially wasting its entire creative engine.
How so?
It scatters its energy on countless anxieties, petty distractions, fleeting desires, vague wishes for comfort or more money. There's no focus.
So purpose is like the focusing lens.
Exactly. It's the great organizing principle.
Yeah.
It gives form and direction to all that scattered energy of thought. It takes the random worries, the impulsive ideas, the fleeting good intentions, and it gathers them all into a cohesive, potent, focused will. Without that central anchor, the engine of creation is just spinning its seals, going nowhere fast.
And again, the quality of the purpose matters.
Immensely. He argues the most powerful purposes are rooted in contribution. If your specific chosen purpose is aligned with creation, with growth, and particularly with uplifting the whole in some way, improving the lives of your customers, your family, your community, solving a real problem,
Then you essentially enlist the universe's help.
you command its cooperation, is how he might put it, because nature, the universe, inherently supports that which expands life, that which serves, that which is life-affirming. So abundance becomes almost inevitable, not because you deserve it morally, but because you've aligned yourself with the creative, supportive forces of existence.
And the flip side, the warning.
His stark warning is that those who lack the central focused purpose inevitably become prey to lower mental states. The petty worries, fears, troubles, and self-pity.
He doesn't see those as just like inevitable parts of the human condition.
No, he diagnoses them differently. He sees them not as profound existential suffering, but often as simple symptoms of mental witness. Symptoms of creative energy that is unbound, scattered, chaotic, and therefore turning inward destructively. Lack of purpose leaves you vulnerable. Which brings us right to the absolute bedrock of enduring success and wealth. Integrity.
Yeah, we often think of integrity as just, a moral virtue, being honest because it's the right thing to do. But Allen elevates it, doesn't he?
He elevates it significantly. He calls it a practical power, not just a passive virtue, but an active force.
How is honesty a practical power?
He argues that strict honesty in thought, word, and deed aligns the individual with the universal current of truth. And he sees truth as the strongest, most enduring, most stable force in existence. Integrity creates a state of inner wholeness, of coherence.
Alignment between inner and outer.
Perfect alignment between your inner thought, your spoken word, and your external action. When you break that alignment, when you think one thing but say another, or act deceptively, you introduce internal friction, conflict. And that, he argues, dramatically weakens your mind's creative authority. You're working against yourself.
It's like an internal energy leak.
A massive one. Deceit creates enormous internal conflict, psychic tension. And that conflict, following the law of cause and effect, is mathematically guaranteed sooner or later to manifest as some kind of outer collapse, failure, or ruin.
So the person who seems to be getting away with it, the dishonest person.
Alan warns is actually in the process of losing even when he appears to be gaining, because violating the fundamental law of internal balance ensures that any external gain is built on shifting sand. It cannot last.
So to build something enduring, integrity isn't optional.
It's the invisible fortune, the foundation that cannot be shaken or stolen. It has to come first.
Okay, moving into section 3 now. We're shifting focus slightly to the specific mental states that Alan says are required not just to achieve abundance, but to actually attract it.
Yeah.
To become, in a sense, a magnet for good.
Exactly. And the first, perhaps the most foundational of these states, is calmness.
Calmness. That sounds maybe passive, like just being relaxed.
But it's not passive in Alan's view. Calmness is the absolute prerequisite for all effective power. It's the still center from which clear sight, disciplined action, and intuitive wisdom actually spring forth.
Okay. He has an analogy for this too,
It
right?
does, a beautiful one. Just as a lake must be perfectly still, perfectly calm to accurately reflect the stars above.
Mm-hmm.
So the mind must be calm to accurately reflect the truth of abundance, the opportunities that are present, the right course of action. If the surface of the lake, your mind, is constantly agitated by worry, desperation, fear, anxiety.
Then all you see is distorted reflections.
Yeah.
Chaos.
Exactly. You can't see clearly. Calmness allows for clarity. And this inner stillness, he argues, is inherently magnetic. Think about it. A genuinely calm person, especially in a chaotic situation or a turbulent world, exudes confidence. They radiate a sense of order, stability, inner control. People are naturally drawn to that.
Like an anchor.
Precisely. They become an anchor. And this calm presence naturally draws people essential resources, creative ideas to them. They stop trying to frantically force life to bend to their will and instead start cooperating with the natural flow, guided by that inner stillness.
So it's crucial to distinguish this active, cultivated calmness from just passive resignation, right? Like giving up.
Absolutely critical distinction. Alan's calmness is not apathy. It's an active state. It's the calm eye of the hurricane. It's the center from which powerful, effective action originates. And it's cultivated through rigorous, disciplined inner self-control, not by simply wishing problems would go away.
It's the ability to hold your vision steady, hold your purpose firm, even when the immediate environment is stormy.
That's it, exactly. And the primary enemy of this essential calmness is fear.
Right. Alan digs deep into how fear is the ultimate saboteur, the great destroyer of abundance.
He really does. He sees fear fundamentally as a self-fulfilling prophecy. Why? Because fear itself is a focused thought of lack.
What does fear whisper?
It whispers things like, I am not capable, or there is not enough to go around, or something terrible is about to happen. And because, as we've established, thought creates reality according to this law.
Then those who live under the constant shadow of fear
Find their circumstances constantly mirroring back that very lack, that very danger. Fear actively repels the good opportunities, the helpful people, the resources you seek.
Why repel?
Because it communicates a vibration, an energy of constriction,
Yeah.
of unworthiness, of neediness and desperation. And those energies push away the very things you desire.
It's also the great thief of mental energy and clarity, isn't it?
Totally. Fear blinds you. It makes you focus on the problem, not the potential solution. It paralyzes right action. And the key correction, the way out, according to Alan, is quite foundational.
Which,
Fear begins to dissolve when we fundamentally shift our self-perception, when we stop seeing ourselves as helpless victims or like beggars waiting for life to hopefully grant us something good from the outside.
and start seeing ourselves as
Co-creators, as active participants, realizing that the source of all abundance, all good, flows through us from within, waiting to be directed by our clarity, our purpose, our faith, not to us from some external, capricious source.
Okay, so if we manage to conquer fear, or at least manage it, and establish that necessary foundation of calm, What's next? You mentioned faith.
Yes, faith. But Allen's concept of faith is really specific, and it's crucial to clarify it, especially for a modern audience, because it's easy to misunderstand.
It's not blind optimism or just religious belief.
No, it's not blind optimism, and while it can align with religious belief, it's more fundamental than that. He defines it as spiritual understanding,
Spiritual understanding, meaning what?
meaning a deep, unshakable conviction that's rooted in the certainty of that mental law. We discussed the law of cause and effect.
Okay, so if cause and effect is the law,
Then faith, for Allen, is the absolute confidence that this law works perfectly, impersonally, and reliably, and therefore, whatever I have clearly conceived in my mind, provided, of course, it aligns with truth, service, and constructive purpose,
then it.
it already exists in essence in the unseen mental realm. It's already real there. It's just waiting for the necessary passage of time and my diligent, consistent action to reveal it, to precipitate it into physical form.
Wow. So faith is like the invisible bridge.
Exactly. The bridge between the abstract thought, the inner blueprint, and its eventual physical manifestation in the world.
How does someone who operates with this kind of faith behave differently?
Well, they don't panic when results seem delayed. They don't despair when the immediate environment throws up obstacles or resistance.
Why not?
Because their confidence isn't based on the external appearances of the moment. It's based on their understanding of the inviolable law. So they continue their inner work, cultivating their mental garden, refining their purpose, taking the right actions with a sense of absolute serenity.
Trusting the process.
Trusting that unseen forces, the mechanisms of universal law, are already arranging the outcome because they know they have met the internal prerequisites. Allen puts it starkly. He who has conquered doubt and fear has conquered failure. Because doubt and fear are the only things that can truly stop the process.
It transforms ambition from something maybe grasping and desperate.
Into something serene and powerful. You're not desperately grabbing for outcomes anymore. You are patiently, powerfully allowing abundance to manifest because you know with certainty that you have sown the right seeds and are tending the garden correctly.
And this faith, this inner certainty, it finds its primary tool, its way of shaping that unseen reality, imagination.
Yes, imagination is key. Allen describes imagination not just as idle daydreaming, but as spiritual seeing.
Spiritual seeing.
Yes, the soul's inherent ability to perceive possibilities, to see the desired reality before it is physically manifest. It's the blueprint stage of all creation.
Every great invention, every fortune, every piece of art, it started as an image.
Every single one. It all began as a single, clear, sustained image held firmly in the mind of one person or perhaps a small group. Imagination is, quite literally, according to Allen, the womb of creation.
So when you consistently hold a clear vision of your desired abundance, and importantly, not just the money, right, but the feeling of sufficiency, the quality of the contribution you're making, the integrity of your actions.
When you hold that complete picture, you begin to align your entire energy, your entire being with that future reality. You start vibrating at that frequency, essentially.
And the universe.
The universe, being perfectly neutral and responsive, like the soil, quietly begins to move circumstances, people, resources to fulfill the image that you persistently and confidently hold. But, and this is the absolute critical distinction,
Its secret sauce.
kind of, it's the secret that separates the mere daydreamer from the actual creator. You must engage in believing before seeing.
Believing it's real before there's physical proof.
Yes. If you spend time doing complex visualizations, creating detailed mental images of success, but simultaneously, deep down, you're harboring doubt, if that little inner voice immediately cancels the vision by whispering, yeah, right, that's impossible for someone like you, or that'll never happen,
Then the creative process stalls.
it's stopped dead in its tracks. The doubt acts like an equal and opposite force, neutralizing the creative power of the image.
So mastery of life, according to Allen, requires maintaining that chosen vision with relentless consistency, holding it firm regardless of temporary setbacks or discouraging external conditions.
Exactly. That's why Allen encourages us, dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become. He insists, your ideal is a prophecy of what you shall at last unveil. You have to guard your imagination, nurture your chosen vision, protect it from doubt and fear as your most sacred, most powerful asset.
Okay, bringing it all together in our final section, we're looking at the practical application, the manifestation, and the more holistic nature of what Allen means by true wealth. And you mentioned earlier, one of the most powerful immediate shifts anyone can make involves gratitude.
Yes, gratitude. For Alan, it's like the invisible key that immediately changes your vibrational state, your inner magnetism.
How does that work?
When you consciously cultivate a genuine state of thankfulness, not just saying thanks, but really feeling grateful for what is right now, even the small things,
Yeah.
you send an immediate, powerful signal out to the universe, energetically speaking. The signal says, I already have enough. I recognize the good that is present.
And that affirmation of sufficiency.
It invites expansion. Because nature, the law, tends to multiply what we affirm. If you affirm lack, you get more lack. If you affirm sufficiency and good, you open the door for more good to flow in. It shifts your point of attraction.
And the opposite, complaining or resentment.
Deeply destructive. Alan sees resentment, complaint, bitterness as mental poisons. They're literally poison the mind, and they act like a filter, distorting your perception.
Blinding you to opportunity.
Exactly. They blind you to the good that is actually present, the resources you do have, the opportunities that might be right under your nose. Gratitude, on the other hand, sharpens your perception. It helps you see the immense potential in small beginnings. It allows you to reframe hardships as lessons, as blessings in disguise, because you're looking for the value within them.
So it flips the whole inner atmosphere.
Completely. And if the inner atmosphere changes, the outer world, according to the law, must eventually conform. It has to reflect that inner shift.
Okay, gratitude is powerful. But now we have to address that gap again. Alan saw so many people who could grasp the theory, they understood the power of thought, maybe even practiced gratitude. But they remained stuck as dreamers.
Yes, that crucial gap between knowing and doing. They feel inspired, they affirm abundance, they visualize, but they stop there. They stop at contemplation.
And they fail to take the next absolutely necessary step.
Action. Consistent, purposeful action. The universe, Alan insists, rewards movement. Not just passive meditation or visualization. Those are important starting points, but they must lead to inspired action.
Action is the bridge.
It's the bridge between the inner conviction and the outer reality. It's simply not enough to affirm abundance while remaining inert, sitting on the couch hoping money will fall from the sky. One must embody that inner conviction.
Wow.
Through disciplined, persistent, intelligent work, through taking the steps, making the calls, doing the tasks that align with the vision. Action is what refines your intention. It's what transforms abstract philosophical theory into practical strength, into tangible results. It's what finally aligns the inner world of thought with the outer world of experience.
And this action, it needs structure too, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned the discipline of order.
Yes, Alan connects effective action directly to order. He argues pretty forcefully that disorder in your outer life, like a perpetually chaotic workspace, constantly missed appointments, disorganized habits, maybe an overwhelming digital mess.
Yeah, that sounds familiar for many.
It's a direct, undeniable reflection of inner confusion, of scattered thought energy, of a lack of mental discipline.
So order isn't just about being tidy for its own sake.
No, order, for Alan, is the physical signature of wisdom in action. Cultivating order in your physical environment, in your schedule, in your daily habits, it actually channels your creative energy much more efficiently. It reduces mental friction.
Ow.
Each small act of organizing, each planned hour adhered to, helps the mind to focus. Creating clear physical spaces, clear schedules naturally helps you attract clear, manageable opportunities and ideas rather than just more chaos. And a disciplined, orderly life acts like a clean, focused lens.
Gathering the scattered rays of thought and directing them powerfully towards your chosen goal.
Precisely. And this focused, disciplined energy is what fuels the engine of the service principle, which Alan believed was the ultimate, most enduring, and most fulfilling source of true wealth.
The service principle. So life rewards giving.
Fundamentally, yes. Life rewards those who consistently aim to give more value than they take. Prosperity doesn't ultimately flow to the purely greedy or the perpetually lazy, not in a sustainable way. It flows naturally, abundantly, and lastingly when your work, your efforts, spring from a genuine desire to enrich the lives of others, to solve problems, to contribute value.
To serve is to receive. Is that the idea?
That's the core of it. If your goal is truly rooted in contribution, making a great product, offering a needed service, sharing your unique talents, then your work becomes a necessary channel through which universal abundance naturally flows. You become a conduit.
So if you want to increase your own wealth or success, Alan's formula is pretty simple.
Deceptively simple. Increase the value and the quality of the service you bring to the world. If you want more opportunities, increase your usefulness to others. Focus on giving value first.
And this whole system, this exchange of value, operates under what he calls the law of compensation.
Yes, an unwavering, perfectly just law. Nature, the universe, is perfectly just in its accounting, according to Allen. No sincere effort, no act of genuine integrity, no focused, constructive thought, and certainly no generous service offered is ever truly lost.
Even if you don't see the reward immediately.
Even then, even if the immediate results seem delayed or maybe insufficient compared to the effort, Allen assures us that the returns are accumulating quietly, in unseen ways, in unseen realms perhaps, waiting for the right conditions, the right moment for manifestation. The cosmic scales always balance eventually,
This explains why he says people are often anxious to improve their circumstances.
but are strangely unwilling to improve themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, because the external world naturally resists changing if you remain fundamentally the same internally.
So the key is to work on yourself first.
To improve yourself, your dominant thoughts, your level of integrity, the clarity of your purpose, the quality of your service, is to absolutely guarantee, by law, the eventual improvement of your outer circumstances, your returns. The law cannot fail. Whatever you plant, whether in thought, in love, or in service, you will get back, often multiplied.
This whole perspective, it really leads to Allen's final and maybe his most liberating definition of abundance, doesn't it? Which is wealth as expression, not possession.
Exactly. This is a radical reframe for most of us.
How so?
We're deeply conditioned, culturally, socially, to pursue wealth as something to own, something to acquire, accumulate, maybe hoard, often driven by underlying insecurity or fear.
Right, getting and keeping.
Allen flips that entirely. He says true. Lasting wealth is not primarily a possession. It is the outward, visible symbol of your inward development. It's an expression.
An expression of what?
An expression of your refined creativity, your persistent self-discipline, your unwavering integrity, your capacity for service, all made visible, tangible in the world. Money, in this higher view, is simply energy. It's meant to circulate, to be used purposefully for good, not something to be clutched tightly and locked away out of fear.
So someone could have inner wealth without outer riches.
Absolutely. The individual who has diligently cultivated the wealth of soul, deep serenity, genuine generosity, profound moral strength, clarity of purpose, that person is inwardly rich, fundamentally abundant, regardless of their current bank balance.
And the physical abundance, the money, the possessions.
That's just the shadow cast by this robust inner sufficiency. If the shadow is thin or distorted, it's an indication that the inner substance, the character, the thought life, is lacking or needs refinement. Focus on the substance, and the shadow takes care of itself.
Okay, one last piece which feels important. We can't ignore the role of struggle, of adversity in this whole process of development. How does Allen frame that? Is it just punishment?
No, definitely not punishment. He is adamant about this. Adversity is not punishment for past failures, although it might reveal them. Instead, he sees adversity as the necessary sculptor of future abundance.
The sculptor, like a chisel shaping stone.
Exactly. Loss can purify our motives, burning away selfishness. Delay can refine our patience, teaching us faith. Struggle itself deepens our wisdom, strengthens our character, reveals hidden reserves of power we didn't know we had.
So suffering isn't random.
He clarifies that suffering is often, perhaps usually, a rather brutal indication that the individual is somehow out of harmony with himself, that their thoughts, their actions, their deep-seated beliefs are misaligned with universal law, with truth.
But it's not the end of the story.
Not at all. When hardship is faced with genuine faith, with self-control, with a commitment to learn the lesson embedded within it, then trials become powerful teachers. They have the potential to turn our very weaknesses, the source of the suffering, into purified, sustainable inner power.
And that inner power
Eventually expresses itself, through the law, as sustainable, enduring outer success and true abundance. The struggle was the refining fire necessary to create the vessel strong enough to hold it.
So we've really covered a lot of ground here, delving into the depths of James Allen's philosophy. It's a system that quite deliberately cuts through all the noise, all the complex financial strategies, to focus relentlessly on the one variable that you can always ultimately control: the quality and direction of your own mind. His central message, when you boil it all down, is singular and incredibly powerful. You are the absolute master of your own destiny, primarily through your consistent thought choices. The path to genuine abundance, inner and outer, begins and ends with rigorous self-control and the dedicated daily cultivation of character.
And reclaiming that creative authority, starting right now, immediately requires, perhaps counterintuitively, simplicity and focus. As Allen taught, True, enduring wealth isn't found in the frantic, endless accumulation often driven by anxiety. It's found fundamentally in peace, in purpose, in internal sufficiency.
So the practical application starts with simplifying.
Yes, by simplifying your desires, pruning away the mental weeds of scattered, chaotic thought, and maintaining a laser-like focus on your chosen service-oriented purpose, you free up the immense mental energy required. Energy needed to sustain that calm, focused, faithful vision that naturally attracts genuine, fulfilling abundance into your life.
The realization has to be immediate, doesn't it? There's no external factor you need to wait for. There's no rescue party coming to fix your inner world.
Nope. You are the master gardener, you are the author of the story, and the universal law of the harvest is entirely impartial and always operational.
So building on that powerful idea that wealth is fundamentally an expression of your inner state, we want to leave you, the listener, with a final, maybe provocative thought to carry away.
If your external wealth, or lack thereof, is truly just an outward representation, a mirror image of your inner development, your integrity, your discipline, your patience, your purpose, your dominant thoughts,
Then what message are your current daily choices sending? Your habitual thoughts, your reactive actions, your deepest, perhaps unexamined motives? What are they expressing right now about the level of abundance you truly possess within?
and maybe more importantly, what new, intentional, value-aligned thought will you choose to consciously plant in the rich, fertile soil of your mind starting today?